I get paid a lot of money to scare the piss out of people. Before you go judging me, understand that the sort of folk who hire me are the sort of folk who would and could hire hitmen instead. So you see, I am providing a valuable service for both the client and the target. I mean, the target at least gets to live. Sure, he may have horrible nightmares for the rest of his life, and never get a good night's sleep again until his hourglass runs out. But at least he'll be alive. I make sure of it. Twice now, I've had to talk targets down from the old suicide ledge, explaining that it was all a trick, and breaking my process down for them until they believe me. Another time, I had to intervene and stop some dude from shooting his 80-year-old mother in the head. A long story on that one. Everything turned out fine for them, even if I had to refund the client's money those 3 times. Short of death though, I offer all tiers of service, up to and including driving the target to check herself into a psychiatric ward. I mean that literally. One time I drove a target to the hospital in my car, and then I waited outside and I watched through the window as she checked in at the desk and finally gave me a wave goodbye. If a client is only a little motivated, I might make a few creepy phone calls and leave it at that. More than a little motivated, I might make it seem like the zombie apocalypse is happening for a few days, and then drop it and let the target catch on that it's not real. Or I might do some light stalking. Or if the client is really motivated and flush with cash, I might settle in for a month-long haunting that the target is sure to never forget. It's not that I like frightening people per se, it's just that I'm really good at it, and I take pride in my craftsmanship. That and the money is good. Actually, the money is ridiculous. And that's good because, you see, this time I got in a bit over my head, and now I've got to skip town for a bit and lay low. Gotta lay low for a long time now, I think. It started off normal enough. I got a message in an encrypted Dropbox from somebody requesting my services. The only questions I ever ask are, who, where, and how bad do you want me to get them? And then we work out a contract and take it from there. Okay, so that's what I asked, and this is what I got. Cal Jenkins. That son of a gun stole my business and my wife. I want you to crush his soul to dust. I thought, sounds like a 6-figure job. I wrote back, for $200,000, I'll make him cry for his mama and keep the lights on for the rest of his life. We struck up a deal and then the client wrote another message. One more thing, Cal doesn't scare easily. I've never even seen him flinch, not even when I was holding a gun to his head. I wrote back, Cal hasn't met me yet. The client responded, good luck. I waited for the money to land in my account and then I got to work. I staked out Cal's place. I learned his schedule, all that. His house was in the suburbs and he lived alone. And he had a basement. Great. That was all I needed to try out the top-tier version of the emergency alert. Yeah, I did get the inspiration from Reddit. But before you accuse me of taking from the community and not giving back, understand that I've read at least 24 accounts here of encounters with me. Here was the plan. Send out the text to his phone with the emergency alert, instructing him to go down to the basement if he had one, and not come out until he received word that it was safe. Bring enough supplies to last as long as you can, all that stuff. Set up the signal jammer so that he can't use his phone, cut the power to his house, and then wait for him to head down to the basement. Eventually, he'll get curious and venture back up to the main house, look out the window. And when he does that, he's not actually going to be looking out a window at the outside world, but at some screens that I had made up which depict his neighborhood under a dark cloud, completely still and motionless. I made one up for night and one for day, and I plan on setting these up when he first heads down to the basement. and turn off the jammer just long enough to periodically send out increasingly scary alerts. Start in with banging on the door and all that. Start in with the creeping around his house, opening and closing things, just loud enough for him to question if he actually heard something. Of course, I will be monitoring him this entire time through my surveillance equipment that I have set up around his house. If he opens the front door, even after seeing that somebody or something was rattling at the doorknob, then the first thing he'll see is me in my scary alien outfit. If I get tired of waiting for him to open the door, and if the neighborhood is quiet enough when he makes one of his window checks, then I'll take down the screen temporarily, and the scary alien will be peering in through the window at him. This whole time, I'll be camped out in his front yard, with my equipment out in the open, though I'll be well disguised with prosthetics. And if some nosy neighbor or friend comes over, I'll hand them my card that says I'm a movie producer, and tell them I'm shooting a movie there for a while. Sorry, I can't say any more. And there's more, of course. A lot more. Tons more scares plus methods of dealing with family and business associates, or even the police if necessary, who are starting to wonder where he is, etc. But I'm not going to give away all my trade secrets just yet. Anyway, so I got all of this shit together over the course of the week, and then I was ready. I was sitting in my car early in the morning, watching my monitors. He got up and did his business in the bathroom and all that, and made it to the kitchen. I let him have a couple of cups of coffee, you know. I wanted him fully alert, and then I sent out the message to his phone. Emergency alert. All residents must seek underground shelter immediately. If you have a basement, go there immediately, with enough provisions to last several days. Do not venture outside until authorization has been granted. Stay tuned for further developments. That son of a bitch looked at his phone, dropped it on the table, yawned, and had one more cup of coffee, and then headed outside for a leisurely stroll. I watched from my car in disbelief. It was the first time that the emergency alert hadn't worked. Hell, it was the first time that any of my deluxe packages had failed. He walked right by my car as I pretended to look at my phone, and I cursed him under my breath. I decided to use a signature classic. I waited until it was fairly quiet around the neighborhood, and I was sure via my monitors that Cal was busy in the back of his house. And then I put on my bright yellow vest with our city name written across the back, and I got out of my car. I took 2 shovels from the trunk, walked over to the sidewalk, and used the shovels to pry open the sewer manhole cover. I climbed down the ladder and I studied the pipes. There were 3 of them. One from the street line above, one going down to the street below, and one coming from Cal's house. I stuffed a bunch of rags into the street line going downhill, and then I climbed out. A woman jogged by and I gave her a nod. "Evening, ma'am," I said. She nodded back, and then I went to the truck again and began hauling out buckets of pig blood. I have friends in high and low places, including at a butcher shop a few states over. I dumped bucket after bucket of blood down there. The blood couldn't drain down the street, and since the pitch up the street was steep, it had only one place to go: Cal's house. And the next time that asshole flushed his toilet or turned on the tap, pig's blood would bubble up out of the drains. I would let it go until he called his plumber or something, and then I'd use my hook pole to fish the wad of rags out of the pipe, and everything would drain down to the sewer system. When he arrived and checked everything out, the plumber wouldn't be able to find anything wrong, and Cal would start to feel the fear. I headed back to the jalopy and I watched my monitors. Cal was doing the dishes. Great. I switched cameras and I watched as pig blood started to bubble up into the bathtub. And then Cal started cooking. I waited and waited, and then he put something in the oven and headed to the bathroom. Finally, he walked in, took a piss and looked over at the bathtub full of blood. And then he walked out without flushing. He seemed calm. What? Cal went to his garage, looked around through some bins and pulled out a spool of electrical wire. He grabbed a pry bar, opened the garage door, and walked down his driveway at a leisurely pace, towards the manhole cover. He pried it up and off and then began unspooling the electrical wire into the manhole. After a minute, he brought it back up, with the wad of rags stuck to the tip. He flung the rags to the ground, kicked the cover back on, and then walked back into his house. What the hell? I was starting to get pissed off, and so I decided to go old school on this asshole. The next day while he was out, I entered his house and I went to work. I took a hammer and I banged on all the hinges until every door opened with a loud creak. I pried up the stair treads so each one of those creaked too. I opened up the kitchen cabinets and I switched everything around. Not enough to be obvious, but enough to throw him off. Just that fleeting moment of, something's wrong here. And then I added a touch of modern technology. I rolled out a transparent video screen on the top of the bathroom mirror. I unscrewed the bathroom vanity cabinet, pulled it away from the wall a bit, hid all of the wires and whatnot back there, and then screwed it back to the wall. Whenever I wanted, I could push a button, and a pale 12-year-old girl with wet hair would appear there in the mirror for 2 seconds. And then I added the coupe de grace. I went out to my car, pulled a big sack out of the trunk and dragged it into Cal's house. I put on some rubber gloves and I opened up the sack. It was full of dead birds. I have a friend in highway cleanup. I walked around the house, placing the birds in various subtle places. My GPS tracker alerted me that Cal was close to home, so I went to my hiding spot in the basement and I turned on my mobile monitor. I watched on the screen as Cal entered the house, went into the kitchen and made himself a snack. Again, I had moved everything around in there, but he didn't even notice. He was even looking at his phone, reaching into the cabinets and just pulling everything out like he knew just where it was. He took his snack to the living room couch and he sat down. He immediately stood up, lifted the cushion and picked up the dead bird that was under it, and carried it by the tail into the kitchen trash can. Just as cool as a cucumber. Like there is nothing weird about a dead bird under your couch cushion. He finished up his snack and then went into the bathroom and started shaving. And when he was about halfway done, I pushed the button and the terrifying girl appeared in the mirror, as though she were standing right behind him. He took his washcloth, wiped at the mirror and then went on shaving. I stayed crouched in the basement and I watched, getting more and more pissed off as he went about his day. Occasionally finding a dead bird here and there and ho-hum a well, just picking it up and tossing it in the trash. What is this guy's deal? I wondered. Finally the day was over and I watched as he crawled into bed and went to sleep. At last, a ghost in the house never failed to scare the shit out of people. Often literally. I crept out of the basement and up the creaky stairs slowly. I watched in the monitor as he stirred, and I smiled in the darkness. I was finally going to get him. I walked down the hall to his bedroom. The door was standing open. I slowly closed it and it groaned out a glorious creak, and I slammed it the rest of the way shut. In the monitor, I saw Cal bolt up in bed. He reached over to his nightstand. Good, I thought. He's going for a gun or something. He picked up some earplugs, stuck them in his ears, and then went back to sleep. I needed to regroup. I wasn't giving up, not by a long shot, but I needed to think long and hard about things and get some rest. I had barely slept since I had started the Cal Jenkins project. It took a lot of effort to set up even one premium scare package, and by then, I had set up 7, all of them utter failures. I sat in my car and I watched as my last effort went into effect. Cal opened the door to his woodshed, and a booby-trapped axe swung down from the ceiling, carefully calibrated to miss his head by 1 inch. And as it did so, he didn't even flinch. And then he turned, pulled the axe from where it was stuck in the doorframe and began splitting firewood with it. I drove off to the airport cussing like a madman and just barely caught my flight home. I opened the door to my house and heard my wife screaming from upstairs. I dropped my bag and I ran up the stairs. The door to my 5-year-old son's room opened and he stepped out. In front of me, he was frowning. "Is Mom okay? What's wrong?" I cried. "We don't want you here anymore," said my son. I shook my head and I ran past the little brat to my bedroom door, where the screams were coming from. I swung it open and watched in total shock as some guy was with my wife. He was really going to town on her, and she was screaming in delight. After a few seconds, blinding rage overtook the shock. "Get out of here," said my wife, peeking around the man on top of her and noticing me. And then the man, still banging away, slowly turned his head to look at me. It was freaking Cal Jenkins. He gave me a big smile. I fell back into the hallway, my head spinning, a dozen thoughts fighting for control over the mounting terror. Here's the one that won. I left directly from his house and got straight on the plane. The flight was non-stop and I drove straight home. How did he get here before me? A close second was, how does Cal Jenkins know my wife? They live on opposite sides of the country, and I never heard of him until my client contacted me. I slumped against the wall and I fell on my ass. My son stepped around me and closed the door to the room, while Cal and my wife continued doing it vigorously. "We don't want you here anymore," my son said again. I stood up with a light head and I walked slowly back to the stairs. I took them slowly and carefully, holding onto the handrail like my life depended on it. I opened the front door and I got in my car and I just started driving. I know I shouldn't have, but I was sort of in a state of dumb shock on autopilot. I drove straight through a stop sign and I woke up in the hospital. I found out that my insurance had been declined, and then I found out that my main bank account was gone. My investments, poof, gone, liquidated and sold off. Luckily I have a few nest eggs stashed here and there, but still, Jesus. This happened about 2 months ago, and I've been moving around ever since. I mean moving. A different burner phone every day, a different country every week. None of it helps. I keep getting the messages. Pictures of my wife and son at first, smiling happily. A picture of my Benz back home, lit up in flames. And then last week I started to get pictures of me. Pictures of me sleeping in my hotel room. There's no possible way that Cal could have tracked me down. There's no logical way. I use my emergency package, and I have used 12 different identities, along with my failsafe travel protocol. There's just no way. So I'm going to lay low for a while now. I've been thinking it over, and I finally come up with a temporary plan. I mean, somebody is taking pictures of me while I sleep, right? And I've asked every time at the hotel front desk if I can watch the security footage, so I can know, at least see if Cal or somebody else is doing it, and know what to be on the lookout for. But they never let me look at the footage. They're probably in on it too. I realize now. I've been thinking about it, you know. If I had people guarding my room 24/7, and then we'd know it for sure, we would catch them in the act. We would nail that son of a bitch to the wall. So I'm thinking, how can I get guards like that? And I think, prison? No, screw that. And then I think back to that one target, the one that I had dropped off at the psychiatric ward. She had seemed so at peace then. And then I know what I have to do, just for a little while. I just have to regroup and come up with a plan. And then I will scare them. I'll scare the piss out of them all.